All right, welcome everybody. Great to see you all here. My name is Alex, and we're going to get things underway in just another couple of minutes. But I always like to give people a while just to settle in and allow any latecomers to not miss anything. So we're going to start at 2 minutes past the hour. So welcome one and all, and we will begin very soon. Thanks everybody for being with me. Welcome to those who've just joined. We are going to get things underway very soon. Just admitting the last few people here through the waiting room and giving approvals to all the AI note takers and stuff, and we will start very soon. All right. Well, I make it 2 minutes past the hour here, so let's get things rolling. Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you all with me. Like I said, my name is Alex, and I can see a lot of pretty familiar names there. So if anyone's joined me for other courses, welcome back. And if this is your first time with me, it's nice to meet you. This is a two-part course. We have 1 hour together today, 1 hour together next week. This is our task and project management course. So the way we've broken it down, you may be able to guess, is that this week we're going to focus mostly on the task management side of things. Next week, we're going to focus mostly on the project management side of things. Of course, you can't have one without the other, but I think task management is a great way to start. So if anybody in the audience today is brand new to Monday, task management is a great use case to begin with. I think it's pretty easy to get started with, and we'll keep it pretty simple in the early parts of today's session. But already by next week, we're going to be looking at some more sophisticated project management stuff. And even in today's session, if you are more of an advanced user, I'm sure you'll have plenty of little, tidbits that you didn't know before. And I hope there's a lot of value, no matter which level you're at in both sessions. But we are going to start with the basic and escalate things up pretty quickly to next week. So I have a quick agenda to run through, just so everyone's on the same page. We'll start with a quick round of introductions. So I'll go first, introduce myself, and I'll introduce Monday.com's nonprofit program. That is pretty important. If you don't already know about the nonprofit program, sorry, my friends, I'm just trying to turn up the speaker a little bit. Someone said that they can't hear me very well, so let me just turn up the mic. Fair warning if anyone's got headphones on. This could get loud real quick. There we go. Hopefully that's a bit louder for anyone who found it hard to hear earlier. So yeah, I'll go first with a quick introduction, and then I'll talk about Monday.com's nonprofit program. And then, I would love to be able to sit down and discuss what you're doing, each and every one of you. I'm sure that there's some really cool, impactful stories from each one of you. We are already up to, almost 60 people. So even if we took 1 minute per person just to a quick introduction, you can get the idea. We wouldn't have much. We won't do a one-on-one introduction, but instead I've got a nice little game we can play, which will hopefully both get to see who we have on the call today and also see a couple of cool Monday.com features. So we'll use Monday's forms just to kind of do a quick survey of everyone. I hope this works well. And then, like I said, our main focus for today is task management. So to begin, I'll show you where we can download a really nice template. It's a perfect place to get started. But even the best template in the world isn't going to manage to do absolutely everything that you're looking for straight out of the box. Every organization is different. So I'll show you how we can start to customize that template, add your own unique elements to it. We'll talk about how we can add automations to it. The version that you will download has no automations, but it's very easy to add them. And then one question which people ask all the time is around recurring tasks, things which you're going to be doing very regularly, and you don't need to waste time by adding those manually each time or each week, for example, that you're doing it. If there are questions along the way, I'm very happy to go, off this agenda. Whatever's interesting and relevant for you folks is what's most important for me. And as I said at the bottom here, we'll talk about task management today and project management next week. Already been asked a couple of questions in the chat, so let me just come down here. Looks like a few people had issues with the mic, but looks like it's fixed now, which is good. So sorry about any technical difficulties today. Hopefully you can all hear me now. And someone here is asking if the session has been recorded. Yes, it is. We will be sending out a copy of the recording once we're done here, so you can share it with colleagues, or if anyone is unable to join us live today, how are you doing? You can watch this recording as well. And yeah, you can use the chat for any questions as we go along today. Cool. So good to meet you all. I'm Alex. I am in this role at Monday.com for almost 4 years, working with 27,000 active nonprofits. That's how many nonprofits we have on our nonprofit program. Most of them are paying absolutely nothing. I'm sure that many of you today will be in that group. If you are yet to join us, stay tuned. I'll explain about everything you need to do to join the nonprofit program. It is an amazing deal. I come from the world of nonprofits. I've seen firsthand the good, the bad, and the ugly. So hopefully I'll be able to, relate to some of the challenges you're feeling and facing, but also to the amazing impact that you're able to have. And I think Monday's a great fit for helping with both of those things. And a fun fact about me, I don't know how fun it is, but in a group this size, it's always a hot topic. I can't stand coriander or cilantro. Depending on how you call it, it'll still taste the same disgusting way. And if there's anyone out there who feels the same way, or maybe the opposite, you can let us know in the chat. This sometimes does get very heated, so be respectful of one another, please. All right, enough of that. Let's jump out of here and into our eligibility page here. Like I said, many of you may already be on the nonprofit program. If that's the case, amazing. I really hope that the application process for you was straightforward. Basically, anybody who has a Monday.com account, you could be on a free trial, you could already be paying, your free trial could have expired, right? When you open your Monday account, you get a 2-week period where you can play with it. It doesn't matter. Any one of those account types, you're welcome to apply to the nonprofit program as long as you meet our eligibility criteria, which we've listed here. They're pretty easy to understand, and I hope everyone in today's call will be eligible. Again, monday.com/nonprofits/eligibility is all you need to remember. And here, you'll be able to fill out a very simple form. We just need to know the name of your organization, who you are, and what's your Monday.com account. With those 3 bits of information, in just a couple of minutes, we can do a quick check to see that your organization is legit. And then behind the scenes, we'll flip you over onto the nonprofit program. By default, that means you'll be on the pro tier. You will get 10 seats for free. So obviously you and 9 other colleagues can all use Monday without paying anything. We don't ask for a credit card or a deposit, or we're not going to charge you later on. This is free and free for life. We have, like I said, 27,000 nonprofits using this. If you need to buy extra seats, you get a 70% discount off those. And if you need to upgrade to the only level higher than Pro, which is Enterprise, you can also get a nice discount there. I'll be honest, I'm not the best salesperson. I don't think for most nonprofits it's necessary to upgrade. About 99% of our nonprofits are here, and most of those are paying nada. So it's a pretty cool deal. If you haven't yet filled out the form, it takes truly just a couple of minutes. And yeah, you can get access to all this stuff for free. As well as this, along the top here, you'll find other resources and more bits and pieces that might be helpful. So you can always use monday.com/nonprofits for information about the plan. Now, I can see already there's been a lot of chat in the chat about the about the herbs. Most people seem to love it. Wow, this is a tough one. Okay, one question here about the pro plan versus enterprise and so on. So again, the nonprofit program is on pro. You don't need to do anything to get the pro plan. That is what you will receive. If you want to join the enterprise tier, the one above, then you can come in here to pricing. And there is a contact us button here on the right hand side. If RV, you've filled it out and not had anybody reach out to you, you can let me know and I can chase some rep down and see if we can find someone who can help you. So yeah, we'll definitely get a rep to you if it's something that you haven't been able to do on your own, but this is the button where it should work. And yep, a lot of people in the chat now coming in on my side. Cilantro is soap, apparently it's genetic. I agree. All right, amazing. So what I thought we'd do now is, like I said, get to know you guys. So I'm going to open my account and we're going to build something out from scratch together. We're going to use one of Monday's most brilliant features, which is a work form. Now, these forms can be filled out by people who aren't in your account, and these forms are free and unlimited on the nonprofit program. So it's a pretty nice deal. Now, the first thing you'll see is that I'm currently in Monday's CRM up here in the top corner. And this is the perfect tool for managing people. If you need to manage volunteers, donors, beneficiaries, anything like that. But what we're going to be managing today is tasks and next week projects. So the perfect product for that is this one, Monday's Work Management. Now, until pretty recently, all that Monday.com offered was this one, Monday Work Management. That's it. But within the last 2 years, we've become a multi-product company. You can imagine why there's plenty of good reasons from a business point of view to do that. And I'm really happy to say that we've been able to give nonprofits free access to each one of these products. So you can use the CRM for your people, and you can use work management for tasks, projects, and so on. You can switch between the products very easily, just with a click of a button, like so. And, oops. Apologies. For some reason, when I click on that button, my my Google Chrome seems to crash. It's nothing to do with the product, I promise. Let me just share my screen again. Okay, while I'm doing that, I can see a few people asking about these products. So if you don't see, for example, one of those products in your product switcher up here, you may see it down below. It may say something, by the way, like start 2-week free trial. Now, you can safely ignore that. If you're on the nonprofit program, you will have access for free. You can click that button. After 2 weeks are done, you will continue to have access. So yeah, you should see them along the top here, or maybe in a slightly different styled menu. But yeah, up here on the top right, 9 dots, that's where you should find the product switcher. Cool. So let's click on the plus here and add now a new form. Now you can see lots of different things you can add within Monday.com. The form is what we're going to go with here. So I will click on that and it will create for me a brand new form. As I said, these forms can be filled out by anybody. They are free and they are unlimited. So you can share these with folks who aren't in your organization and they can contribute information into your account. Another very cool feature is that we can use AI to build this form for us. We don't have to take all of its suggestions. We don't have to do it exactly as the AI built it. We can make changes afterwards. But this is a great way to get started. It should be clear that this is something which will be charged for in the future. We're working hard to ensure that nonprofits will also get a discount on this. At the moment, though, it's in beta mode, so let's go for it. Use it as much as you want to. AI credits will not be charged while you're in beta. So this is good news for us. And I can say something like this. I want to get to know the folks on a webinar. I like to know what their nonprofit is called and where in the world they are based, what field they work in. You can provide some options here and maybe something else funny. We can see what AI's humor is like. Sometimes they nail it, sometimes it's something totally weird. So let's see what we're going to come up with here. It's creating for us the form. As I said, once the form has been built, I can still go in and make changes to it. It's not a problem. All right. So this is what it looks like on the right-hand side. Webinar attendee information, name of nonprofit, where are you based, with a location question. This is great because it means we're going to be able to see these results in a form later on. Sorry, in a map later on. And let's see what it's provided. Okay, not bad. 5 different options here, and then other, and then share something fun or interesting. That's really pretty boring, isn't it? But let's let's go with that for now. We can create this form, and then we can maybe make some changes. All right, great. So when we're building out this form, I want to stress we're just using it for a bit of fun today, but you could use this form for so many different things. Your team could, for example, submit projects for approval via this form. Of course, you could use it to register people for events or for volunteers to express interest. There's so many things you could use these forms for. Of course, we can edit these and make changes to the look, the design. We can add logos. I'm keeping it pretty simple just for the sake of today. What I did think of doing was maybe adding one question in here. This is the question: what field do you work in? We've got the option here, other. So what I thought we could do maybe is click on the plus here, add a short text question to the form. And I'm going to make this question be a conditional question. Okay, I'm going to come down here to the logic button, and I'm going to describe the circumstances under which this question should appear. So it will only appear if the answer to the previous question, what field do you work in, is other. And if that's the case, then this will appear. And I can ask the question, please tell us your field. Amazing. Here we have share something fun or interesting. It's a bit boring. Let's go for something like, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen happen on a webinar? Sure, we'll get some good answers here. All right, amazing. So this is just, like I said, a quick example of a form. There's a lot more we could do with this. But what I will do is share this with you now. Okay, there are several ways that you can share these forms. Number one, every form comes with its own link. I'm going to be sharing it in the Zoom, so I'll make it a bit shorter by clicking on this button. But depending on what you're using the form for, you may also want to take advantage of these other options here. You can directly share it on social media. You can embed these forms in your website. So you can just copy and paste this. You don't need to be a programmer to be able to put that into your page. Very easy to do. Or you can even use the QR code. So in fact, if anybody, let me just get that link in my clipboard. If anybody wants to use their phones to fill out this form, I'm sure everyone has a phone in their pocket, you can scan the code on screen now. These codes are generated for free. Every single form comes with its own unique code and its own unique link. So you can click on the link in the chat or scan the QR code on the screen now. And no matter which way people use the share options, the answers will appear in the same place in my Monday board. As people are filling that out, there is a couple of questions that I can see here. So Abby asked, does this allow for scoring? For example, you get the score based on your choices and you get one of several end of survey messages. I see the challenge here. I think the answer to that, Abby, is no. You can have a different end of form message for each form, but it's not dynamic to what people filled out. And the reason for that is that when they fill out this information, it's coming into your board and it's not able to change things in your boards, right? This information is external. It's not something which people can make changes to in terms of the data that's already there. So I think that would be not possible using this form. However, there are also other apps that integrate with Monday. If you were to work, for example, with an app called Superform, you give permission for this software to be able to see your data. Monday.com, we don't see your data. We are merely processing it for you. We can't make changes based off data that have been submitted like this through the form. But on a Superform, you do give permission for that, and then it would work. So that's definitely an option if you need that to happen. Another question here from Lindsay about the difference between work management and CRM. So because the nonprofit program provides both for free, my advice is truly don't worry too much about it. I can close out of this now and show you how easy it is to move stuff between these products. If I wanted to move this volunteer onboarding board, for example, to a different product, it's a click of a button. I can do whole batches together. And as soon as you move something to a different product, you get to take advantage of all the special features that are available uniquely there. So if you've messed up and you've put stuff in the wrong product, it's not hard to move them around and even move them back again, right? They get advantage of the product features and then you can take them back once you've used those things. So don't worry too much about it. Like I said, you have it for free anyway. And my advice, pretty simple. If it's people, CRM. If it's work that's not relating to people, work management. The simple reason for that being the CRM has lots of cool features when it comes to contacting people, extra stuff around emailing and that kind of thing. If you're interested in seeing those features, we have, first of all, of course, CRM demo videos, which you can watch, or on my courses around managing donors, grants, and volunteers, we all use the CRM product. So some of those features would become obvious if you join those courses. Okay, great. I can see a few questions there as well, but let's take a look at the answers and then I can come back to the questions because I can see a lot of people filling stuff out already. So this is amazing. Thanks everyone who filled out this form. You can see how quickly this data appears, right? It was instant. As soon as somebody filled it out, all the things different came in. We can see where people are based. Pretty nice, pretty good spread of the US, the UK, New Zealand, kia ora. Canada, Costa Rica, Mexico, Estonia, love it. And like I said, a big spread across the US. The name of the nonprofit. So welcome to everybody. If you see, anyone you want to reach out to or someone who's maybe doing similar work that you're doing, please feel free in the chat to leave an email address or LinkedIn profile. That's totally fine. And the other thing I thought we could do before we move on is show you how we can interpret some of this data, because as nice as this board is, it does get pretty difficult to manage when you end up with, over 30 different items. So what we can do is come up here to the plus, where we can add new views. And a nice view that might be helpful here would be a chart view. A chart can help us to map out all those different fields. Oh, there we go. Without me doing anything, the system has kind of guessed that this might be an obvious thing we wanted to look at. So we can see here the fields of work, right? Automatically, it's taking a look at every item on my board. As soon as someone fills out the form again, this will change. And it's mapping them out here in these columns. So we can see what's going on here. If I wanted to come to the three dots and change some of these settings, I absolutely can do. For example, oh, there we go. Did you see someone just added a new entry here for environment? So you can see it's live. In these chart types, with the click of a button, I can change it to a different style. Pie chart might actually be more straightforward for interpreting this information. If I want to keep it as a bar chart, like the system suggested, easy to return to that. And then if it's a bar chart, we obviously have two axes. Okay, the x-axis down below and the y-axis on the left-hand side. The x-axis could be any one of those fields. So the only question that really makes sense to use is this one. If I was to, for example, pick what is the name of your nonprofit, looks like every single person gets one answer, but we have two folks, how you doing, from the Superhero Project. Welcome to you both. So this doesn't make sense to display in this way. Instead, which field do you work in is much, much more obvious. Then in the y-axis, at the moment, we've only got one option, and that's to count the number of items. But if you're trying to build charts, for example, about your projects, and you want to track how many tasks have been completed versus they're being worked on, and you want to also track that against a numeric value. If, for example, we had budget here, we could also plot that on the left-hand side. At the moment, it's a simple count of the items. One organization works in environment, it's going to add one to the tally. That's it. But other numeric items can be added here on the y-axis, which is pretty cool, and it's very easy to build these kind of reports depending on what kind of things you're trying to demonstrate. The hard question really isn't how do I build these things? We just literally work at the top and work our way down. The hard question really is, what am I trying to discover? What data insights am I trying to draw out from what you've got? If you've got the data in Monday, you can pull out insights. It's really not hard. Okay, maybe I'll just show you one more widget before we move on here, because I am a real map nerd. And if you come down here to more widgets, you will find a map. And as soon as I add the map widget, it should automatically look for any location column that exists, and we do have one, and plot these things out on a map. Let's make it full screen so we can see this. Is it going to load for us? There we go. So we can zoom out a bit and see where everyone is joining our call from today. Looks like definitely the US is our most prevalent part of the world. And yeah, maybe you're interested to know that in the Washington, D.C. area, we have 5 organizations in there. Washington, Alexandria, Baltimore. Now, this could be used to survey people on a webinar, but it could equally be used to plot out where the projects you're working on are located. For example, which beaches you've cleaned up or which homeless shelters you're running. And it's so easy to do this because the system will simply take a look automatically at anything that exists on the board relating to either a country or a location and put the pins in for you. Any changes will be updated automatically. And of course, we can click on it and find out more information. We can see even the physical address, or we can view the item of the person, the United World College in Costa Rica. How are you doing? And what they've seen. Before we close then, let's just return to the table to see those craziest things you've seen in a Zoom. Naked husband, that's a classic. Nudity on a Zoom is always a good one. Inappropriate videos, yeah. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. So I hope that was, first of all, interesting to see who we've got on the call today. Second of all, I hope it was a fun couple of Monday features that you maybe didn't know about. These forms and these charts, free and unlimited, so many uses, whether you're managing projects or something else, this is a great way to get started. Amazing. So before we take a turn and talk about task management, let me just return to the chat, see if we can answer a couple of questions there quickly. I do apologize in advance if we can't answer all of your questions today. I will finish by showing you where you can find answers to things if we can't answer everything in today's session. Okie dokie. So, oh yeah, cool. So you get a note when you've reached the AI credit limit, and to use more AI credits. Like I said, we are still working on getting a non-profit discount applied. So at the moment you'll be paying full price, but if you do add a credit card to your account, and you can do that up here in administration, you can then buy more AI credits. Any question you have about your account or that kind of thing, which is technical, my advice would be to click here on the question mark and chat with us. Here you can have a 24/7 free chat, first of all with an AI-powered bot, Tim the Llama, but you can escalate to a human at any time. Just say, I want to speak to a human, and they can help you get an answer. We have this service, even for nonprofits, completely for free. Like I said, any time of day or night. So yeah, if you can't figure out how to do something like that, this is definitely the first place I would come. They will know your account and your infrastructure the best out of anyone. So yeah, great question. Taryn asks, what's the difference between a board and a workspace? So here you can see my demonstration workspace. This is like an organizational tool. It's just like the top level for planning stuff out. Think of it as like your filing cabinet, I guess. And then within that, you can have boards, forms, docs, folders. So workspaces are your top level organization tool. You can manage them, edit them. There's no limit to the number of workspaces you can have. But within those workspaces, that's where you'll be adding boards to do the work. Let's have a look here. Alyssa, is the cards view always available? Yep. Any board you've got, you can come here to the plus and you can add any of these views you like. The one that you asked about, Alyssa, was the cards view. that can be added onto any board, no problem. By the way, for managing projects, things like the Kanban view, the Gantt view, these are the types of things which can very easily help you when you come to managing your projects. As soon as you add one of these views, whether it's a chart or, for example, the card, it is going to be interpreting your data. So any changes in the data will impact the view automatically. It is the same information. So it's very nice, easy way to work. And if you prefer seeing things in a different way, like you don't like this table for any reason, this is the place to do it in the views. Okay, cool. Yeah, a couple other people shouting it out and making product requests and features and stuff. So thanks everybody for that. But I think that pretty much covers us for the chat for now. So let's move things along. What we're going to do next is start working with tasks. And to do that, I'm not going to create a task management board using AI or build something myself. What I thought we could do is come here to mondayspaces.com. This is a template center. We actually have two places you can download templates from. The first one is here. By clicking on the plus, you can visit the template center. All the templates here are great. They're all available for free. They're all built by Monday staff. But there's also this resource, which is sometimes missed by people. It's another template center. The only difference here is that regular users have made these templates just because they want to share their content and help other people out. And predictably, the non-profit category is one of the best. There's lots of people here helping one another out. And I actually added a template here, which I will recommend we use today. This one here, task management for nonprofits. I did already share this link with you in the email, but I can put it in the chat here of the Zoom as well. You can read more about the template, find out what you need to have to use it. And if you want to download it, simply click here on Get Space, and it will download this into your account. Now I do need to accept the terms and conditions and say add space. Space is just like the name for the template. I know someone already mentioned this in the chat, that there's a lot of terminology. Anytime you use a new software like this, you've got to learn a whole lot of new words. So a space is just like a user-created template, basically. Excellent. So here it is. It's downloaded. It's created for me a new workspace, task management for nonprofits. And inside it, we have our board. Okay, that's the icon of a board. By default, it's going to be visible to everyone in my team. Remember, you get 10 users you can add for free here, and they can all then work on this, collaborate on this. But if you need to change that setting, you can. You can come down here and change it to private or shareable very easily. So if you do have something which is sensitive, you can do that. I should also say that there's no limit to the number of boards you can have. So if you want to manage your wedding or your Christmas shopping list, that's actually totally fine. There's no limit to the number of boards you can have. You can make it private. No one will be able to see that data. It's not going to impact your nonprofit in any way. And there's lots of great use cases that might actually be helpful for you as an individual. Cool. So this is the board itself. I can maybe just make this a bit bigger so we can see the dates. And you can see I put in a couple of like dummy tasks here that a nonprofit might need to do. And maybe the first thing you'll notice is it's divided into these three groups: this week, next week, and done. Now these are pretty arbitrary at the moment. Okay, there's no automations on this board. Like I said, we deliberately designed it simple. And so there's nothing connecting the date column to the week board. There could be, and we can add that perhaps later on. But if you prefer to work this month, next month, or if you have different sites like geographic locations, you've got tasks for the Ohio office and tasks for the Florida office, you can do it that way. You can also add more groups, right? We have 3 here, but I could add another one. I could also delete groups if you want. Completely up to you how you organize this. I might just return this to the way it was so that it looks more similar to what anyone else is using if you are following along. And then within the groups, we have the items, which in this case are tasks. And maybe a good way to think about the things you're managing in the board is that they should all be examples of the same type of thing. What do I mean by that? On this board, everything we've got here is an example of a weekly task for our nonprofit. This is something which I've seen a lot of new users run into trouble with, okay? They try and cram too much into one board. I know I did this when I started. For example, adding a new group down here and calling it donors. You add in your donor names. Here's John Smith. Okay, maybe he has a person in charge, but he's not going to have a status, priority, due date. The columns will relate to every single item on a board. And that's very deliberate. It means that the items can relate to each other. Automations work this way. So if you do want to manage donors in Monday, by the way, amazing. We have a template for that, by the way. I have a separate course for that, by the way. It's a good thing to do on Monday, but don't do it in the same board as you're trying to manage your ad hoc tasks. This board is perfect. It's like a brain dump. Got things you need to do, put it in the board. That's it. Managing donors, let's use that and do that in a different place. I can come here and move items very easily between boards, either within the same board into a different group or move it into my donors board. No problem there. But yeah, don't be afraid to create many new boards. There is no limit to the number of boards, as I said, and you don't want to get into the situation where you have different types of things on the same board. Top tip. Now, within the things we have on this board, you will see, for example, this one, finishing the grant application, is a little bit more involved. Okay, it's not something simple like watering the office plants. And for that reason, we can see the number 2 here and a little triangle here. Any item in Monday can have sub-items. Sub-items, by the way, can have different columns. You can see we don't have exactly the same columns as the items. So that's one nice trick if you're trying to kind of cheat the system a little bit. But the best thing here for managing tasks is that if you have a more complex task, like a big grant application, which may be very time consuming, you can add in here the sub items to really break down that big monolithic, scary piece of work, and also to start delegating it. Okay, so finishing the grant application. Here in the person in charge column, I can assign that, for example, maybe to me. Right, I'm going to be the one in charge of this. It's an important task and it's due, let's say, the end of the week, end of the month. I'm working on it. I can change here the priority. Of course, all of this, by the way, is customizable. If I wanted to add here, something like that, we could also add a new status if we wanted to. So although I'm overall in charge here, and you'd be amazed how effective seeing someone's picture next to a task can really be, you may also want to delegate some of those tasks to lighten your load. I know this can be hard, especially for executive directors and founders and stuff, but if you've got a team that you trust, amazing. Let's delegate that work. So this task, maybe it's going to be delegated to Sarah. The logo maybe is going to be delegated to the graphic designer directly. Maybe Laura is our graphic designer, right? You can assign them here with the click of a button. What I'm seeing here are the people that I've added to my account. You will obviously see different names here. And one other nice feature that you can see is that you can create groups of people. They're called teams. So maybe you've got a fundraising team, which is frequently going to be tagged together. Generally speaking, it's nice to have clear ownership, but there may be occasions where you want to have the ability to tag multiple people at the same time. Also for things like privacy, you can give people groupings, and that's easy to do. Up here in the main menu, you have the option here to create teams. People can be in more than one team, and it just means that you don't have to tag each individual person, basically. Cool. So before we move on to some other columns and stuff, what happens when the grant application becomes even bigger than this? You've kind of got different tiers, right? You have a simple task that you're just going to dump into this board. You have a complex task like this one with subtasks. But what if what you do in your nonprofit is write grant applications, right? That's something which is going to be going on and on. There's many, many grants you're working on. You may well want to put that into a separate board. That's really the difference between task management, which is what we see here, and project management. And in this case, the grant management is kind of your project. And the benefits of having a separate board for that, first of all, clarity. If you've got a lot of grants to manage, go to the grants board and you'll see them there. But also detail. right? If you're managing something specific, you'll have more specific bits of information, more specific columns. And maybe this sort of generic labeling isn't enough for your grants. So put them into a separate board. And there is no kind of one way or one time to do that, right? I always say it's an art, not a science. The boundaries between a task management board and an item with sub items and a project is blurry. Ultimately, whatever works for you, if it works, it works, you know. But to me, if the grant application is a one-off, it's probably fine on a board like this. If you're applying to many grants, if it's more complicated, that's when I would consider a second board dedicated for just that purpose. By the way, of course, I'm also doing a course on managing grants. If that is something you're interested in, please join me for that. I believe that starts maybe day after tomorrow. And we also have a grant management template as well. So perfect for managing your grants. Lovely. So let's maybe take a look at the chat because there's plenty going on down there. So let's have a look at these. Okay, can you link reminders to Google Calendar? Great question. So at the moment, we don't have any reminders on this board, but let's add some. I think that's a good thing to do. Here we have the due date column, and that's going to be helpful, but maybe we want to actually be actively reminded when this date is coming close. That would be good for these important tasks. So what we can do, come to the three dots here, and in settings, we can add here a due date reminder. I'm aware I'm not actually answering the question, but I will circle back and answer the question about connecting it to Google Calendar. The first option here is just to send you notifications within Monday. And in a way, this is like taking a back door into the automations center. And because we did it this way, it says it's a pre-built template. So it's something we don't need to build from scratch. A lot of this is already filled in. All we need to do is tell it some of the specific details that we're looking for. So when the due date arrives, when exactly do we want to be notified? We can specify down to 15 minutes. Or in this case, we might actually want to put in a bit of a lag here, right? Maybe 2 days before, because it's not probably good enough to be told it's due today and you won't have time to fix it. So let's say 2 days before the due date arrives. And here we can put in a condition. You might want to say only if the priority is critical or high, but maybe another even better one would be, and only if the status is not already done. Because you don't want these kind of zombie tasks that you completed ahead of schedule coming back from the dead to haunt you. So because it's a template, we can only add one of these. If you wanted to say it's not already done and it's high priority and it's assigned to me, you could do that if you build out your automation on your own. But we took a nice easy way to the automation center. So we have some guardrails here. So that is the trigger. The automation needs something to kick it off. And then here we have the action. And this is where we can write the content of the notification. And as you can see here, you can actually pull things from the board. So you can say things like hi owner, or sorry, person in charge, and it will put in their name. The task you've been assigned, item name, and it will put in the name, is due in 2 days on due date, and its current status is status. Please ensure it's completed on time. Here you can be as encouraging or passive aggressive as you want to with your team members. And then we only need now to tell it who that notification should be sent to. Could be a specific person, you if you're the manager, for example, or again, whoever's been assigned. This is now dynamic in that person in charge column. So that's, I think, the easiest way to send reminders. Of course, this is internal to Monday, so this would send someone a notification within the platform. You can then decide what you want to have happen when you receive a notification. If that notification will trigger an email or just do you a notification within Monday, that's up to you. But the original question was, can we sync this with Google Calendar? And the answer to that is yes. If you come to the 3 dots and settings, because it is a date-related column, I can come here to customize date column, and then I can sync with either Google or handful of other calendars. First, you need to say which items you want it to be, yours or everyone's, and then you're basically following the instructions on screen here. One thing I'll say is that Monday is very flexible, right? You can have different columns and different headings. If you are trying to sync it, for example, with Google, Google is very inflexible, right? Every single event in Google can have a start time, an end time, a date, a description, and a location. That's it. You can't add fields there. So if you do want to sync your calendar with an external calendar, my advice is to build Monday so that it's similar to the calendars you're working on. So if you were working in Google, you wouldn't just have due date, you'd probably have start time and end time, because that's how Google calendars work, right? 30-minute blocks. You can add the time to any of these dates if you want to. Right? We didn't here, we just kept it generic, but you can, by clicking on the button here, add the very specific time if necessary. Keep in mind, you can also come along here in the different views and you could add a Monday calendar, and then it would interpret the data kind of more organically. And you can see here where tasks are taking place, and you can then customize exactly how it looks. So at the moment, this task is in purple, which is showing its priority as medium, but I could color it in different ways, could give it different labels, depending on what I want to highlight from the board. I can play around here in the settings. So that's another option, I guess. Great, thanks for that question. Okay, Mohammed, how are you doing? How do I make a board that measures OKRs and KPIs based on projects and tasks? Ooh, love that question. So there are many ways that you could do that. There are, I'm almost certain, a couple of templates here in the template center for doing that. But to give you the kind of high level answer, what I would recommend is adding here a new column, which could either be a status column or a drop-down column. The difference here is that you'd be able to pick only one value at a time. Here you could pick more than one. And in our drop-down column, we could say, this is our KPI tracker. Well, let's do actually OKR tracker. If anyone doesn't know, objectives and key results. So at the beginning of the year, you may set yourself 3 or whatever the number, objectives that you're trying to achieve. And as Mohammed said, you want to connect these tasks to those objectives. So you could come in here and add these as labels. So objective 1 is increase volunteer recruitment by 20%. This is a new label, and interviewing the new volunteer, that's working towards this OKR. Finishing the grant application could be, let's just add a new label here. Hit 20K fundraising target. Okay, and this one is working towards that. And there may be some tasks which have more than one. So you could see here, if there's a task like this one, perhaps is actually for both of these, they'll both be added. And then what you can do is filter by these OKRs. So you could say, I only want to see tasks which are contributing in the OKR column to the OKR hitting the fundraising target of 20K. And it's now filtered out these other options. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be to create a separate board where you list your OKRs as items. And then instead of pulling them in here through a drop-down column, you could connect them using a connect board column. And we'd actually be seeing the original items. That would definitely give you a lot more power if you wanted to pull in, for example, how much money was spent on achieving each OKR, how much time was spent on each OKR. That would be the way to go. If you want to play with that on your own, that's a feature. If you want a bit more support on managing connecting boards, we're going to look at that next week. We won't touch it today, but next week we're going to be looking at connecting boards in the context of high and low level projects. So it would work actually very similar for OKRs. So if you want to play with it, that's the feature. If you want to have a bit of support, stay tuned for next week. There's our cliffhanger. Okay, cool. Anne-Marie asked about privacy issues. I want to list my donors, and I'm concerned about external Monday being able to read it. So if you have any specific questions about the legal terms and conditions and stuff, you can visit, where is it? monday.com/privacy, I believe. And this is like your portal where you'll find everything you need to know about the very specifics of the legal policies. But I can tell you, without going into the depths of all the legal stuff, that the security and privacy of your data is like absolutely top priority at Monday. We have, like I said, 27,000 active nonprofits and almost 260,000 paying customers. They're all trusting us with some very sensitive data. So as soon as you upload anything to your board here, you can rest assured no one else can see it unless you invite them, your team members. If I was to log into our back-end software where I can see like some analytics about your account and see statistics, I can't even see your data, right? I can't see your list of donors. It's impossible. So what else can I say there? We're compliant with all of the data protection policies around the world, GDPR and whatnot. And like I said, if you do have specific technical questions, then you can check that out in the privacy policy here. But yeah, it's not like social media where if you upload a photo to Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg kind of owns that photo and can do what he wants with it. Definitely not the case here. We are merely processing your data. We don't access it. We can't see it. So yeah, it's a pretty watertight policy there. Amazing. What else do we have here in the chat? Will we be sending the recording? Yes, the session is recorded and will be sent to you afterwards. Not a problem. And how do you link a task to something in a note doc? Absolutely. So I don't know why that's not loading. Let me just refresh my page for a second. We'll close a couple of these tabs. While it's loading, Monday.com does have a what's called a work doc. If you're familiar with Google Docs, it's a pretty similar idea where you're able to, why is it not loading? Where you're able to basically do word processing. Yeah, you can collaborate as a team on certain things. You can embed lots of things, which is really nice, and you can tag specific tasks in your docs. I wish I could show you how to do that, but for some reason it's no longer loading. What is going on here? Let me try opening a new one. We do have a page which can tell you the status of Monday.com. If there is some, wider issue that's maybe knocking out the system, we can check that here. No, all systems are operational. You can see 99.9% uptime or 100% uptime in the last couple of weeks. And this is updated every single day. So if you do ever have any issues, you can check that out. Still don't know why this isn't loading. Let's try that again. Let's say this should work. Okay. Okay, brilliant. It's loaded. If I add here, for example, a doc, I could call it my grant application doc. Okay, I've just added it as a new item here. But within the doc, I can embed different parts of Monday. I can connect it to different tasks and really whatever I want to. The doc is my canvas. So yeah, I can come in here and I can connect it to a board. For example, weekly tasks. I can have this appear in my board, and I can even add filters here. So I can say I only want to see boards where in the name is the word grant. Save that as a filter. And now I can see here, as well as my application, I can start typing things out. This is our application. We will do a 1, 2, 3 tasks working on it. And this is live. So any changes that go on in my board, this will appear here. I can also, add in the name of these tasks here. We will save the dolphins, save the turtles, save the crabs. Okay, now these, I select them, can also be turned into items in the board. Click of a button, I can add these as tasks in whichever group I want to back on my weekly tasks board. So it's easy to kind of work between the dock and the tasks board kind of seamlessly. Those should be appearing here in a moment. All right, my friends. So look, we have just a couple of minutes left, and maybe what I'll do here is show you my work to finish things off. My work is a great tool, and it is sometimes missed by people because it's sort of in the most obvious place of all, but that sometimes makes it somehow easy to miss. My work will take a look across your entire account and see anywhere where you've been assigned a task. It'll look for a person column, a status column, and a date column. And if it sees what it thinks is a task, it will automatically put it here. So you could kind of argue that with my work, a board like this, here are our new tasks, by the way, becomes a little bit redundant because you would only put your tasks into specific project management boards. So, saving the turtles wouldn't just appear in our weekly tasks board. Saving the turtles would appear in a project management board where we've got a whole lot of individual tasks that we're going to do in order to save these turtles. And as I said, what my work will do is look across everything that's going on in your account. Of course, if somebody has chosen to make a board private or they've hidden certain things, then it won't appear here. But what you can do is group these tasks automatically by status or date. This time it is connected to the date. You can even come here to customize and you can choose which people's work to see. So for example, I work very closely with my colleague Sarah. So I want to see both of our tasks. And if you're the manager, you could put everyone in here. Again, the best way to work on Monday is in a very open, transparent way. Whole optimal way of doing things. Of course, there are some cases where whole boards will need to be hidden and privatized. That's also totally fine. But you even have the ability right down to the specific column. Like, for example, maybe if we had a budget column, that's pretty common to be something which is a bit sensitive. So this maybe includes watering the office plants. We have a $10 budget for watering cans, and signing the new lease, we have a $25,000 budget. We can actually come in here to the column. Wow, what's going on today? Sorry about this, folks. There we go. We can come into the three dots of the column, and we do have the ability in the settings here to control who can view or edit a specific column. So we could have everyone contributing in our weekly task board, but we could hide who can see this specific column about the budget. So at the moment, only I can see this information, for example. And we can, of course, add a currency marker here, like so. So yeah, my work is a great feature. It is sometimes missed. Now, if you did want to connect the dates of your board to the groups here, we could also do that using automations. So maybe we'll finish off today by checking out the automation center here, which should have that one automation that we added earlier. But we can build new ones of our own as well. We can create brand new automations and we can build them out from scratch. Here we're not constrained by the automation template. So we might want to say something like, when a date arrives, move the item to a specific group. Which date? Well, the obvious one will be the item due date. When, let's say, 1 week before the due date arrives, and again, we'll put in a condition. By clicking on that plus, I can say, and only if the status is not already done. Then move the item to the this week group. So we can definitely do those kind of things. We can add these as automations to the specific board. This will now be active and waiting for this trigger. But the nice thing about my work is that it requires none of that setup. It's just automatically looking. So yeah, my work is a cool one. All right, maybe we have time for just a couple more questions down here. Okay, Tara, I might have missed this, but should I be able to get spaces where it generated a preset workspace for you, the ones with the personal task list, if that makes sense? So yeah, I mean, if you download a template like this, like we downloaded from Monday Spaces, Where did that go? I must have closed it. Yeah, here it's got made up tasks. Yeah, you can go in and customize that to your heart's content. You can have a separate board for each individual person. You probably won't be able to get everything you're looking for completely preset. You're likely to need to enter in some custom fields here, but you can start with a template to help with the building, I guess. Mary, great question. Will my work pull from work management and CRM? Yes, it will. My work will pull from all the products. So here, for example, we will see. Really sorry this is taking so long to load today, folks. This is very unusual. Looks like there's no issues. You'll have to take my word for it. It does pull from any one of the products, and you'll see that listed in the item. No worries. And then maybe we can finish off today with a question from Lindsay. I'm trying to create a form that allows entry items to sort themselves by group. Is there a way to teach it to do that? Yes, there is. Great way to finish things off. So if we come back to our form from before, we could do this one of two ways. In the automations, we could add a task which says, add an automation which says, when a new item is created, and only if its value in the status or drop-down column is a certain value, then move that item to the specific group. So that's one way of doing it. I wish I could show you here, but things are being a little bit slow today. Or actually in the form itself, there is a value there in the settings of the form where you can tell it which group to send certain values. So again, I'm unfortunately not able to demonstrate that, but if you open your form, go to settings, I think it's pretty much at the bottom. It says default group for new items. So yes, you can have it connected. And depending on what people answer, it'll appear in different places, either in different groups or in different boards. Either one works. Amazing. So my friends, we've reached the 1 hour mark there. So I'm going to have to wrap up today's session at this point. But thank you all very, very much for joining us today. I hope you are able to play with some of the stuff on your own during the week. And next week, we're going to be taking things up a notch. We're going to be looking at project management, as I said. So if you are looking for something a bit more sophisticated, please do join us again next week. This session was recorded, as I said. It'll be sent to you in a recording along with any other links and stuff that I mentioned today. Have a great week. Keep up the good work, everyone, in your respective nonprofits. And I hope to see you all again 7 days from now using the same Zoom link, same time, and we will talk about project management. Bye-bye.